I'm sorry, Jamal. The Morrison Scholarship Committee has made their decision. There's nothing more I can do.
But I've done everything right.
What would you do if you discovered that your entire future, everything you'd sacrificed, every late night studying, every dream you'd built, was destroyed not because you weren't good enough, but because of who your mother dared to be? 17-year-old Jamal Carter stands in Principal Henderson's office, his hands trembling as he clutches a single sheet of paper. The rejection letter. His knuckles are white, his breathing shallow. Across the desk, Principal Henderson won't even look him in the eye. "I'm sorry, Jamal," Henderson says, his voice flat, rehearsed. "The Morrison Scholarship Committee has made their decision. There's nothing more I can do." Jamal's voice cracks when he speaks. "But I have a 4.0. Perfect SAT score. I've done everything right." Henderson looks away, staring at some invisible point on the wall. The silence stretches between them like a chasm. Jamal walks out of that office with the letter crumpled in his fist, and in this moment he has no idea that his rejection has absolutely nothing to do with his grades, and everything to do with who his mother is. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. To understand what just happened to Jamal Carter, we need to go back. Back to when he was 8 years old, sitting in the corner of his mother's Senate office, doing homework while she worked late into the night. Senator Diane Carter, his mother, his hero, his entire world, would lean down and kiss his forehead, her voice soft but firm. "Education is power, baby. Never forget that." And Jamal never did forget. From that moment on, education became his religion. Academic competitions became his battlefield. While other kids were playing video games, Jamal was studying. While they were at parties, he was tutoring underclassmen for free. His bedroom wall wasn't decorated with posters or sports memorabilia. It was covered in certificates, awards, college pamphlets arranged like a vision board of his future. Jamal's father died when he was 5. A heart attack, sudden and cruel. His mother raised him alone, and Jamal made it his mission to make her proud, to honor his father's memory, to break the cycles of poverty that had trapped so many people in his community. He wasn't just working hard for himself. He was carrying the weight of everyone who came before him and everyone who would come after. By his senior year at Westbridge Academy, Jamal Carter was everything a scholarship committee dreams about on paper. Captain of the debate team. 20 hours a week volunteering at community centers. A 4.0 GPA. An SAT score of 1580. He was the kid teachers pointed to and said, "That's what success looks like." The Morrison Scholarship wasn't just another scholarship to Jamal. It was the scholarship. A full ride to Princeton, his dream school, his mother's alma mater. $250,000. Covers everything. Guarantees admission. Only one student from the entire state receives it each year. One. Jamal was going to be that one. 2 weeks before that devastating moment in Principal Henderson's office, Jamal submitted his application. His best friend, Danny Kim, nervously asked if he'd applied too. Jamal grinned, confident, invincible. "Of course. This is it, man. This is everything we've worked for." The interview with the scholarship committee should have been straightforward. Jamal walked in prepared, polished, ready to prove he deserved this. But something felt off immediately. 5 people in expensive suits sat across from him, their faces cold, their questions strange. "Does your mother's political career influence your worldview? Have you ever benefited from your mother's position?" Jamal answered honestly, passionately. He talked about working hard independent of his mother's status, about earning everything on his own merit. The committee members exchanged glances he couldn't read. Subtle nods. Raised eyebrows. A language he wasn't fluent in. Walking out of that interview, Jamal felt confident. But something nagged at him. A whisper in the back of his mind that something wasn't right. And now, standing in Principal Henderson's office, that whisper has become a scream. "Can you tell me why?" Jamal asks, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "What did I do wrong?" Henderson shifts uncomfortably in his chair, avoiding eye contact like it might burn him. "These decisions are subjective, Jamal. Perhaps your extracurriculars weren't diverse enough." "Weren't diverse enough?" Jamal lists his activities, his voice rising with each word. Debate captain. Tutor. Volunteer. Community leader. His accomplishments spill out like evidence in a trial. "I'm sorry," Henderson repeats, and those 2 words feel like a door slamming shut. "The scholarship went to another student." Jamal's heart stops. "Who?" Henderson hesitates. The pause lasts only seconds, but it feels like an eternity. "Brandon Whitmore." The name hits Jamal like a physical blow. Brandon Whitmore. 3.4 GPA. No leadership positions. No volunteer work. But Brandon has something Jamal doesn't. Brandon's father is Robert Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Industries, and one of the biggest donors to Westbridge Academy. Jamal's world tilts. Everything he believed about hard work, about merit, about the system rewarding those who earned it, it all crumbles in an instant. He storms out of that office without another word, his fingers already flying across his phone screen, texting his mother, "We need to talk." Before we continue, if you want to see how Jamal fights back against a system designed to crush him, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. The story is just getting started. Now here's my question for you. Have you ever worked incredibly hard for something, only to watch someone less qualified get it because of their connections? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about it. What Jamal doesn't know yet, what he can't possibly know as he walks through those hallway doors, past students who have no idea his world just ended, is that his mother, Senator Diane Carter, has been fighting a battle he never even knew existed. And his rejection? It wasn't random. It wasn't about his extracurriculars or his interview or anything he could have controlled. It was revenge. Senator Diane Carter's office in the state capitol doesn't look like the office of someone who came from nothing, but that's exactly who she is. The mahogany desk, the leather chairs, the walls lined with awards and photographs with presidents and dignitaries, every piece of it was earned through blood, sweat, and an iron will that refused to break. Diane Carter is in her mid-40s, elegant, with steel running through her spine where most people have bone. She worked her way up from a single-parent household in the poorest part of the city to the halls of power, and she never, not once, forgot where she came from. Right now, she's reading her son's rejection letter for the third time, and her jaw is getting tighter with each word. "This doesn't make sense," she says, her voice controlled but vibrating with barely contained fury. "You're the most qualified candidate in the state." Jamal's voice is hollow when he responds. "They gave it to Brandon Whitmore." And there it is. The moment Diane's expression changes. Recognition flashes across her face, followed immediately by a rage so pure it's almost beautiful. She knows that name. She knows it very well. 3 months ago, Diane Carter voted against a tax bill that would have saved Robert Whitmore's company millions of dollars. It was a bill designed to benefit the wealthy while gutting programs for working families. Diane didn't just vote against it, she led the opposition. She gave speeches on the Senate floor. She made Whitmore and his cronies look like exactly what they were, greedy men willing to step on the necks of the poor to add another zero to their bank accounts. The threats started immediately. Lobbyists filled her voicemail. Dark money groups ran attack ads. But Diane Carter didn't flinch. She'd faced worse. She stood her ground. And then Robert Whitmore himself called her. His voice was calm, smooth, the kind of calm that comes from a lifetime of getting exactly what you want. "You'll regret crossing me, Senator," he said. Not a threat. A promise. Diane hung up on him. Now, staring at her son's rejection letter, she understands. This is Robert Whitmore making good on his promise. This is what regret looks like. "This isn't about you, baby," Diane says, her voice breaking slightly. "This is about me." Jamal stares at his mother like she's speaking a foreign language. "What are you talking about?" And Diane explains. The political landscape she navigates every single day. The enemies she's made fighting corruption, standing up for people who don't have lobbyists or lawyers or million-dollar war chests. The price of doing the right thing in a system designed to reward doing the wrong thing. Jamal's world tilts on its axis. "So I'm being punished for your job?" The question hangs between them like a guillotine blade. "I'm going to fix this," Diane says, and she means it with every fiber of her being. But Jamal explodes. "How? By using your position? Then they'll say I only got it because of you. Don't you see? Either way I lose." It's a painful argument, the kind that only happens between people who love each other desperately. Jamal wants to earn things on his own merit. He spent his entire life trying to be more than just the senator's son. And now, the very thing he's been running from, his mother's political career, has destroyed the one thing he earned completely on his own. Or so he thought. He leaves his mother's office angry and confused, the door closing between them like the final chapter of a book neither of them wanted to end this way. Diane Carter sits alone in her office for exactly 30 seconds. Then she picks up her phone. She can't let this go. She won't. They came after her son. They crossed a line that should never, ever be crossed. She calls an old friend, Michael Torres, an investigative journalist who's exposed corruption from City Hall to the governor's mansion. They went to college together, back when neither of them had anything but dreams and determination. "I need you to look into the Morrison Scholarship Committee," Diane says, her voice steady now, purpose replacing rage. Quietly. There's a pause on the other end. Michael knows Diane well enough to hear what she's not saying. Diane, are you sure? If this blows back on you. I don't care about me, she interrupts. They hurt my son. And that's all Michael needs to hear. Because if there's one thing more dangerous than a politician with power, it's a mother whose child has been wronged. Meanwhile, Jamal tries to move forward. He applies to other scholarships, smaller ones that won't cover everything but might cover something. He goes through the motions at school, but everything feels different now. Tainted. The gossip spreads through Westbridge Academy like wildfire. Students whisper in hallways, their eyes following Jamal. Brandon Whitmore smirks as he walks past, surrounded by his wealthy friends, kids who've never had to work for anything in their lives and never will. Danny Kim tries to cheer Jamal up during lunch. You'll get into Princeton anyway. You don't need them. Jamal stares at his untouched food. Without the scholarship. My mom makes decent money but not enough for Princeton. Not even close. I'd bury her in debt. Decades of debt. For what? So I can say I went to an Ivy League school? The reality is sinking in, cold and brutal. His dream isn't just delayed. It's dying right in front of him, and he's watching it happen in slow motion. Then something unexpected happens. Miss Patricia Allen, one of his teachers, pulls Jamal aside after class. She's older, black, has taught at Westbridge Academy for 30 years. She's seen everything this school has to offer and everything it's tried to hide. I know what happened isn't right, she says, her voice low. I was on the preliminary review committee. Your application was flawless. Jamal looks up, hope flickering dangerously in his chest. Then why? Ms. Allen's expression is sad and angry all at once. I was overruled. By people who don't even look at transcripts. She won't say more. Can't say more. But her eyes tell Jamal everything he needs to know. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't subjective. This was deliberate. While Jamal grapples with this revelation, Michael Torres is doing what he does best. Digging. He pulls public records, calls in favors from sources he's cultivated over decades, follows paper trails that most people don't even know exist. And he finds something. The Morrison Scholarship Foundation Board of Directors. 6 members, 4 wealthy businessmen, 1 retired politician, 1 university administrator. Nothing unusual there. Scholarship foundations are often run by wealthy people trying to burnish their legacy. But then Michael notices something interesting. Robert Whitmore joined the board 8 months ago. Right around the time he made that phone call to Senator Diane Carter. Right around the time he promised she would regret crossing him. Whitmore's joining the board came with a donation. A massive donation. The kind of donation that makes board members pay very close attention to what you have to say. Michael keeps digging. He has a source, someone anonymous who's been leaking documents to him for years. Someone inside these circles who's sick of watching the system devour good people. The emails arrive in Michael's inbox at 2 in the morning. The first one is from Robert Whitmore to the board chairman, sent 2 months ago. I trust we'll make the right decision regarding this year's scholarship. My son has worked very hard. The chairman's response is brief, understood. We appreciate your generous support. Corporate speak. Plausible deniability. But Michael has been doing this long enough to read between the lines. The second email is more damning. Much more damning. Carter's kid applied. Make sure he doesn't advance. No ambiguity there. No room for interpretation. Robert Whitmore used his position on the scholarship board to ensure that Jamal Carter, a 17-year-old kid with a perfect GPA and a spotless record, was rejected because his mother dared to stand up to a billionaire. Michael calls Diane immediately. It's 3 in the morning, but this can't wait. You need to see this, he says. They rigged it. Diane reads the emails on her laptop, her hands shaking. Not with fear. With rage. Pure molten rage. But then reality sets in. Michael explains what she already knows but doesn't want to accept. Legally, the Morrison Scholarship Foundation is a private organization. They can award their scholarship to whoever they want. There are no laws against corruption when it's dressed up as philanthropy. It's deeply, profoundly unethical. But it's not illegal. Then we go public, Diane says. We expose them. Michael hesitates. Are you ready for that fight? Whitmore has lawyers, money, influence. He'll come after you with everything he has. Diane's voice is ice. I didn't come this far to back down now. But while Diane is planning her war, Jamal is collapsing under the weight of his. He doesn't know about the emails yet. Doesn't know that his mother has proof of what was done to him. All he knows is that the system he believed in, the system that promised hard work would be rewarded, that merit would triumph, that fairness existed somewhere in the universe, that system is a lie. He stops tutoring underclassmen. The kids who depended on him send confused texts that he doesn't answer. He skips debate practice for the first time in 3 years. His teachers notice, but what can they say? They all know what happened. Some of them are ashamed. Some of them think it's just how the world works. Danny confronts him in the parking lot after school. This isn't you, man. You're giving up. Jamal's laugh is bitter. What's the point? The system is rigged. Doesn't matter how hard I work. Doesn't matter what I achieve. There's always going to be someone like Brandon Whitmore whose daddy makes a phone call, and everything I've done becomes worthless. Danny doesn't have an answer for that. Because Jamal's right. At home, the tension between Jamal and Diane is suffocating. She's been secretive, constantly on the phone, disappearing into her office for hours. Jamal can hear her angry whispers through the door but can't make out the words. Just tell me what you're doing, Jamal demands one night at dinner. I'm handling it, Diane says. That's what I'm afraid of. Jamal's voice rises. Everyone will think I'm just the senator's son who couldn't handle rejection. They'll think you swooped in and fixed everything because I'm weak. Diane's voice cracks. They stole your future, Jamal. I won't let that stand. It's my future. Don't I get a say in how we fight for it? The argument escalates, both of them saying things they don't mean, both of them hurting in ways they can't articulate. They want the same thing, justice, but they can't agree on what that looks like or what it costs. Jamal goes to his room and slams the door. He looks at the Princeton pennant hanging on his wall, the one he bought when he was 14 and first dreamed of following in his mother's footsteps. The one he stared at every night while studying, every morning while psyching himself up for another day of being perfect. He takes it down, carefully, almost reverently. And then he throws it in his closet, burying it under old clothes and forgotten childhood toys. That night, he writes in his journal, the one he's kept since middle school, the one where he's documented every victory and every setback. Maybe I was never supposed to make it. Maybe that's just how the world works. Maybe some of us are born to rise, and some of us are born to watch other people rise while we drown. Maybe all the hard work in the world doesn't matter when the game is rigged from the start. If you want to see whether Jamal and his mother can take down a corrupt system built to protect the powerful, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what happens next is going to shock you. Here's my question. If you had proof that someone powerful rigged the system against you, would you go public and risk everything, or would you try to find another way? Let me know in the comments. The thing about corruption is that it thrives in darkness. It depends on good people staying quiet, on victims feeling too powerless to fight back, on the system being so overwhelming that resistance seems pointless. Robert Whitmore is counting on that. He's counting on Diane Carter weighing the political cost and backing down. He's counting on Jamal being too discouraged to keep fighting. What he doesn't know is that he just made the biggest mistake of his life. Because Diane Carter has the emails. She has proof. And she's about to show Robert Whitmore and everyone like him exactly what happens when you come after her son. The question isn't whether she'll fight. The question is whether the system can survive the reckoning that's coming. The package arrives at Senator Diane Carter's office on a Tuesday morning. No return address. No identifying marks. Just a plain manila envelope sitting on her desk like a ticking bomb. Her assistant brings it in cautiously, and Diane can feel it before she even opens it. This is the moment everything changes. Inside are documents. Financial records. The kind of paper trail that people like Robert Whitmore spend millions making sure never sees the light of day. The first page stops Diane's heart. The Morrison Scholarship Foundation received a $2 million donation from Whitmore Industries. $2 million. But it's not the amount that makes Diane's hands shake, it's the date. 1 week after she voted against Whitmore's tax bill. 1 week after she stood on the Senate floor and called out his greed. 1 week after he promised she would regret crossing him. The timeline is devastating in its clarity. Donation arrives. Whitmore joins the board. Brandon applies for the scholarship. Jamal gets rejected. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not speculation. It's right there in black and white, a roadmap of corruption so blatant it's almost insulting. But there's more. Because there's always more when you're dealing with people who think they're untouchable. The financial records show that other board members, the ones who voted to give Brandon the scholarship instead of Jamal, received consulting fees from Whitmore Industries. Tens of thousands of dollars paid out over months, dressed up as legitimate business expenses. They're not consulting fees. They're bribes. And everyone involved knew it. Michael Torres is on the phone within minutes of Diane seeing the documents. His voice is electric with the kind of energy investigative journalists get when they stumble onto something massive. This is bigger than your son, Diane, he says, and she can hear him typing furiously in the background. This is corruption. This might be fraud. If Whitmore is doing this with a scholarship foundation, what else is he doing? Who else is he buying? Diane realizes what she's holding isn't just evidence of what happened to Jamal. It's a window into an entire network of corruption, a system where wealthy men trade money for influence like baseball cards, where institutions meant to help young people are just another commodity to be purchased and manipulated. If she goes public with this, she's not just fighting for her son. She's declaring war on everyone Robert Whitmore has in his pocket. She doesn't hesitate. I'm calling a press conference, she tells Michael. Tomorrow. Are you sure? Once you do this, there's no going back. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. But first she needs to tell Jamal. He deserves to know. He deserves to decide if this is a fight he wants to be part of. Diane drives home in silence, the documents locked in her briefcase like nuclear codes. When she walks through the door, she finds Jamal at the dining room table, doing homework with the mechanical precision of someone going through the motions of a life they no longer believe in. I need to talk to you about the scholarship, she says. Jamal doesn't look up. Mom, I don't want to. Just look at this. Please. She spreads the documents across the table. The emails. The financial records. The timeline that maps out exactly how Robert Whitmore purchased his son's future by destroying someone else's. Jamal reads in silence. She watches his face change. Disbelief. Confusion. And then, like a sunrise burning away fog, pure rage. They did this because of you? His voice is barely above a whisper. Because you wouldn't vote their way? Yes. They ruined my life because you did your job? Diane's voice cracks. Yes. Jamal stands up so fast his chair topples backward. And you're going to make sure everyone knows, right? You're going to hold a press conference and tell the whole world. Yes, I am. Mom, no. Jamal's shaking his head, pacing. If you do this, it becomes a political story. It stops being about what happened to me. It becomes Senator Carter versus Robert Whitmore. Another political scandal that people will forget about in a week. Diane steps toward him. It was never just about you, baby. These people are corrupt. They're buying and selling opportunities that should go to kids who earn them. They need to be held accountable. What about what I want? Jamal's voice breaks. I don't want to be a headline. I don't want people's sympathy. I don't want everyone looking at me like I'm a victim. I wanted to earn this. I wanted to prove that I could make it on my own, without your name, without your influence, without any of this. And then comes the most painful moment. The moment every wall Jamal has built to protect himself comes crashing down. He breaks. I worked so hard, Mom. He's crying now, 17 years old, and crying like he's 8 again. I did everything right. Perfect grades. Perfect SAT. Leadership. Volunteering. I sacrificed everything. Friendships. Sleep. Fun. Everything normal teenagers do, I gave up so I could be perfect. And it didn't matter. Nothing I did mattered. They took it all away with a phone call and a check. Diane is crying too, holding her son while he falls apart. Your work matters. Your brilliance matters. Your character matters. They tried to take that from you, but they can't. I won't let them. You are more than what they tried to reduce you to. Jamal pulls back, his face streaked with tears. What if it doesn't change anything? What if we expose them and make all these powerful enemies and I still don't get into Princeton? What if we burn everything down and end up with nothing? Diane cups his face in her hands, looking him directly in the eyes. Then at least we fought. At least we stood up. At least we showed them that there are still people who won't be bought or intimidated. Isn't that what I taught you? Isn't that what your father would have wanted? The room is silent except for their breathing. Jamal nods slowly, wiping his eyes. Okay, do it. Expose them all. The next morning, Senator Diane Carter's office is controlled chaos. Phones ringing nonstop. Staff rushing in and out. The kind of frenetic energy that precedes something massive. Rebecca Lynn, Diane's chief of staff, bursts into her office looking terrified. Senator Whitmore's lawyers are already threatening legal action. Defamation. Slander. They're saying if you make any public statements, they'll bury you in lawsuits. Diane doesn't even look up from the speech she's writing. Let them. We have the evidence. They can threaten all they want. Michael Torres has already written the exposé. It's ready to publish the moment Diane steps up to that podium. He's verified every source, checked every fact 3 times. This story is bulletproof. And Jamal, despite every instinct telling him to hide, insists on being there. If this is about me, I should face it, he says, his voice steady now. I'm not hiding. They arrive at the Capitol press room and Jamal's stomach drops. There are cameras everywhere. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, local stations, digital media, print journalists with recorders. The room is packed with people who smell blood in the water. Jamal sees the crowd and feels physically sick, but his mother squeezes his hand. That simple gesture steadies him. They're in this together now. And then Jamal sees him. Robert Whitmore is already there, flanked by lawyers in expensive suits, their faces carved from stone. Brandon stands slightly behind his father, looking uncomfortable for the first time since Jamal has known him. Whitmore catches sight of Diane and approaches with the confidence of a man who has never faced real consequences in his entire life. "Senator Carter," he says, his voice smooth as oil. "I'd advise you to reconsider what you're about to do. You're making a terrible mistake." Diane stops, turns to face him. She's a head shorter than Whitmore, but somehow she seems to tower over him. "The only mistake was yours, Mr. Whitmore," she says, her voice calm and cold as winter. "Thinking you could buy your son's future by stealing my son's." Whitmore's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "You have no proof of anything illegal, Senator. Private foundations can award their scholarships to whomever they choose. You know that. Then you have nothing to worry about. The exchange is quiet, civil even. But everyone in the room can feel the electricity in the air. This is a showdown." Diane walks to the podium and the room falls silent. Camera shutters click like a swarm of mechanical insects. Jamal stands to the side, his heart hammering so hard he's sure everyone can hear it. Behind the cameras, he can see students from Westbridge Academy who somehow heard about the press conference. Miss Patricia Allen is there, her face encouraging. Danny Kim gives him a small nod. And in the back, trying to blend into the crowd but failing, is Brandon Whitmore, looking like he wants to disappear into the floor. If you want to see Senator Carter drop the hammer on a corrupt billionaire and expose a system designed to keep the wealthy on top, you better subscribe right now because what happens next is absolutely explosive. Question for you. If you were Jamal, would you have wanted your parent to fight this publicly, or would you have preferred to move on quietly and find another path? Drop your answer in the comments. Diane Carter adjusts the microphone, looking out at the sea of faces. Reporters lean forward. Robert Whitmore's lawyers have their phones out, probably already texting their litigation team. This is it. The moment where everything either breaks open or falls apart. Diane takes a breath and begins to speak. "My name is Senator Diane Carter, and I'm here today not as a politician, but as a mother whose son was denied an opportunity he earned through years of hard work, sacrifice, and dedication. But this story isn't just about my son. It's about a system of corruption that allows wealthy individuals to purchase influence over institutions meant to serve our children based on merit, not money." She pauses, letting that sink in. "I have evidence, emails, financial records, a timeline of transactions, that proves Robert Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Industries, used a $2 million donation to the Morrison Scholarship Foundation to secure a position on their board of directors. Once on that board, he ensured his son received a prestigious scholarship while orchestrating the rejection of more qualified candidates." The room erupts. Reporters shouting questions. Camera flashes becoming a strobe light. Robert Whitmore's face goes from confident to stone. "But it gets worse," Diane continues, raising her voice to be heard over the chaos. "Financial records show that other board members received tens of thousands of dollars in consulting fees from Mr. Whitmore's company, payments that coincidentally began around the same time they voted to award the scholarship to his son." Now Whitmore's lawyers are standing, objecting, threatening. But Diane doesn't stop. This isn't about politics. This isn't about personal vendetta. This is about a 17-year-old boy with a 4.0 GPA and a perfect SAT score who did everything our society told him to do, only to have his future stolen because his mother refused to trade her vote for campaign contributions. She looks directly at Whitmore. "I voted against a tax bill that would have benefited Mr. Whitmore's company because it would have devastated working families in this state. 1 week later he made his donation." The timeline speaks for itself. The room is absolute pandemonium now. This isn't just a local scandal. This is national news. This is the kind of story that ends careers and launches investigations. Jamal stands there, watching his mother burn down the world to defend him, and for the first time since receiving that rejection letter, he feels something other than despair. He feels hope. And watching from the back of the room, Brandon Whitmore looks at his father with an expression that might be shame, or might be the first crack in a lifetime of entitlement. The war has begun. And Senator Diane Carter just fired the first shot heard around the country. Diane Carter stands at the microphone and the world is watching. Dozens of cameras point at her like weapons. Reporters are shouting over each other, a cacophony of voices demanding answers, demanding blood, demanding a story that will define careers. The Capitol press room has never been this packed, this electric, this hungry. Diane raises her hand and somehow, miraculously, the room falls silent. 3 weeks ago, she begins, her voice steady and clear, my son Jamal was denied the Morrison Scholarship despite having perfect grades, a flawless record, and a lifetime of dedication to his community and his education. She pauses, letting the weight of those words settle. I'd like to introduce you to my son. The cameras swivel like predators catching a scent, focusing on Jamal standing to the side of the podium. Every instinct in his body screams at him to run, to hide, to be anywhere but here. But he stands tall. His hands are shaking, but his spine is straight. This is his moment, whether he wanted it or not. When Jamal was rejected, Diane continues, I thought this was a simple case of subjective decision-making. Perhaps the committee saw something in another candidate that we didn't. Perhaps my son, despite his perfect record, just wasn't what they were looking for. Her voice hardens. I was wrong. The room leans in collectively. What I discovered was something far more insidious. Robert Whitmore, a man whose corporate tax bill I opposed 3 months ago, a man who personally called me to threaten consequences for my vote, joined the Morrison Scholarship Foundation Board of Directors. He did so by making a $2 million donation. 1 week after I voted against his interests. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Cameras flash like lightning. Diane doesn't stop. She's a freight train now, unstoppable. Once on that board, Mr. Whitmore used his influence to ensure my son was rejected and his own son received the scholarship. A son who, while I'm sure is a fine young man, has a 3.4 GPA, no significant leadership positions, and no record of community service comparable to my son's. She clicks a remote, and the screen behind her illuminates with documents. Emails. Financial records. The paper trail of corruption laid bare for the world to see. But it doesn't end there. Board members who voted to give the scholarship to Brandon Whitmore received payments. Consulting fees from Mr. Whitmore's company. Tens of thousands of dollars. This isn't just unethical. According to legal experts I've consulted, this is potentially fraud. The room explodes. Robert Whitmore's lawyer jumps to his feet, his face red with rage. This is slander. This is defamation. We will sue you for everything you have, Senator. Diane turns to look at him, and her smile is cold enough to freeze fire. Then sue. I have the receipts. She clicks through the documents on the screen. Bank transfers. Email timestamps. The donation date. The board appointment. The scholarship decision. It's all there, laid out in chronological order like a prosecutor's opening statement. The reporters are in a frenzy now, shouting questions over each other. Senator Carter, are you saying? Mr. Whitmore, do you deny? What does the foundation say about? And then one reporter, a young woman from a local station, cuts through the noise with a question directed at Jamal. Jamal, how do you feel about all of this? The room goes quiet. Every eye turns to him. Every camera focuses. This is what they really want. Not the documents, not the evidence, but the human story. The victim's pain made palatable for the evening news. Jamal looks at his mother. She nods. It's his choice. He steps to the microphone and his voice shakes at first, but it grows stronger with every word. I feel angry, he says. I feel hurt. I feel betrayed by a system I was taught to believe in. He grips the sides of the podium. But mostly I feel sad. Sad that in a country that claims to value merit, that promises opportunity to those who work hard and play by the rules, money and connections still decide who gets ahead and who gets left behind. Some reporters are writing frantically. Others have stopped writing entirely, just listening. I worked my entire life for that scholarship. Not because I'm Senator Carter's son. Not because I wanted special treatment. But because I believed, I really genuinely believed, that hard work mattered. That if I was good enough, smart enough, dedicated enough, I would earn my place. His voice cracks slightly. I guess I was naive. I guess I didn't understand how the world really works. But you know what? I refuse to let this break me. I refuse to become cynical. I refuse to let corruption win, even if it means standing up here in front of all of you and admitting that I was hurt, that I was defeated, that I cried when I read that rejection letter. The room is absolutely silent now. Because if I stay silent, if I accept this, then they win. And I won't let them win. Some of the reporters, the older ones, the ones who've seen too many stories like this end in quiet resignation, start clapping. It's scattered at first, then builds into something that sounds like solidarity. And then Robert Whitmore destroys the moment. He storms toward the podium, his lawyers trying and failing to hold him back, his face twisted with rage. "This is a political hit job," he shouts, pointing at Diane. "You're using your son to attack me. You're abusing your power because I wouldn't fall in line with your socialist agenda." Diane doesn't flinch. She doesn't step back. She stares at Robert Whitmore like he's something unpleasant she found on the bottom of her shoe. "You used your money to punish my son for my vote," she says, her voice cutting through his bluster like a scalpel. "You took a scholarship meant for deserving students and turned it into a weapon of revenge against a 17-year-old boy. Who's really using whom, Mr. Whitmore?" The cameras eat it up. This is the confrontation they were hoping for. Senator versus billionaire. Mother versus the man who tried to destroy her son's future. Whitmore opens his mouth to respond, but his lawyers physically drag him away from the microphone. He's still shouting as they pull him toward the exit, but his words are lost in the chaos of reporters shouting questions. Within hours, the story goes viral. Not just trending, viral. The kind of cultural wildfire that consumes everything in its path. Hashtag Justice for Jamal becomes the #1 trending topic on Twitter. Instagram fills with students posting their own stories of corruption, of qualified candidates being passed over for the rich and connected. TikTok explodes with videos of teenagers raging against a system that promises meritocracy but delivers oligarchy. Students from Westbridge Academy flood social media with support. Kids who barely knew Jamal are posting videos. "I saw him tutoring students for free every single day. He helped me pass calculus when I was failing. He's the most dedicated person I've ever met." Miss Patricia Allen gives an interview to the local news that goes national by evening. She's sitting in her classroom, surrounded by books and the dreams of 30 years of students she's tried to protect. "I've seen this corruption for years," she says, and her voice is tired but fierce. "I've watched qualified students, brilliant students, students who could change the world, get passed over because their parents didn't donate to the right causes or know the right people. Finally, someone's speaking up. Finally, someone's fighting back. But there's backlash too. Because there's always backlash when you challenge power. Conservative pundits have a field day. Senator Carter is weaponizing her position to help her son, they say on cable news, their faces grave with manufactured concern. This is an abuse of power. If Jamal Carter can't get a scholarship on his own merit, perhaps he doesn't deserve it. Anonymous threats flood Diane's office. Emails promising violence, promising to destroy her career, promising to hurt her son. Her staff tries to filter them, but some get through. Jamal's social media becomes a battlefield. For every message of support, there are 3 calling him a spoiled senator's kid playing the victim. He's only upset because mommy couldn't buy him a scholarship. Privilege crying about not being privileged enough. Maybe if he was actually smart instead of just his mother's son, he would have gotten it. The words are designed to wound, and they do. Diane finds him late one night, sitting at his laptop in the dark, scrolling through comment after comment, his face illuminated by the harsh blue light of the screen. "Don't read those," she says gently, closing the laptop. "They don't know you." Jamal's laugh is bitter. "Some of them go to my school, Mom. They sit next to me in class. They do know me. Or at least they thought they did." And then comes the blow that hurts more than all the anonymous hate combined. Danny Kim texts him. Danny, his best friend since freshman year. Danny, who was there for every study session, every debate tournament, every moment of triumph and failure. The message is short. "My parents told me I should distance myself from you. They don't want me involved in political drama. I'm sorry, man. I can't be your friend right now." Jamal stares at the message for a full minute. Then he deletes the thread. Not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. Some losses are too painful to keep looking at. His isolation deepens. He wanted justice, but the cost is steeper than he imagined. Every day at school becomes a gauntlet. Some students support him. Others avoid him like he's radioactive. The teachers don't know how to act around him. Is he a victim to be pitied? A troublemaker who brought politics into their school? A hero standing up to corruption? Jamal doesn't know what he is anymore either. But while Jamal navigates the wreckage of his social life, the machinery of justice begins to move. The state attorney general announces a formal investigation into the Morrison Scholarship Foundation. "We take allegations of fraud and corruption extremely seriously," she says at her own press conference. "If these allegations are substantiated, criminal charges may follow." The FBI subpoenas financial records. Not just from the foundation but from Whitmore Industries. They're looking for patterns, for other instances where Robert Whitmore used his wealth to buy influence and punish enemies. Whitmore Industries stock drops 12% in 2 days. Shareholders are panicking. Board members are demanding answers. If you want to see how this battle between power and principle ends, hit that subscribe button now. Because the next part is going to blow your mind. Here's my question for you. Have you ever lost a friend because you stood up for something you believed in? Was it worth it? Tell me in the comments. Robert Whitmore holds his own press conference, because men like him always double down when cornered. He stands at a podium, perfectly composed, flanked by lawyers and public relations specialists who've probably cost him more than the scholarship was worth. Senator Carter is abusing her power because her son couldn't compete fairly, Whitmore says, his voice dripping with false reasonableness. She's weaponizing a private institution's decision to further her political career. This is exactly the kind of government overreach I've spent my career fighting against. Brandon stands beside his father, and for the first time people actually look at him. Really look at him. He's 18 years old, tall, conventionally handsome in the way that wealthy kids often are. Good nutrition, good dental care, good everything from birth. But right now he looks desperately uncomfortable, like he wants to be anywhere else in the world. A reporter seizes the moment. Brandon, do you think you deserved the scholarship over Jamal Carter? The question hangs in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Robert Whitmore's hand shoots out, gripping his son's shoulder hard enough to leave marks. A warning. A command. Brandon's mouth opens. Closes. Opens again. I worked hard, he says, and his voice wavers. I earned it. But there's no conviction in his words. There's doubt in his eyes, a crack in the facade that the cameras capture in excruciating detail. He knows. On some level he knows. Meanwhile, across town, the Morrison Scholarship Foundation board holds an emergency meeting. The board chairman resigns before they even call the meeting to order. His resignation letter is 1 sentence long. Effective immediately, I resign from all positions with the Morrison Scholarship Foundation. The other board members are lawyering up, each one trying to distance themselves from the scandal, each one suddenly remembering that they had concerns about Whitmore's influence, that they were uncomfortable with the decision, that they were pressured. Nobody wants to go down with the ship. The foundation announces it's suspending all operations pending the investigation. Future scholarships are on hold. The organization's reputation, built over 30 years, is in ruins. And somewhere in all of this, in the legal maneuvering, the political theater, the media circus, is a 17-year-old boy who just wanted to go to college. Jamal Carter sits in his room, watching the world fight over his future, and wonders if any of this will actually matter when it's all over. Because even if they prove corruption, even if people go to jail, even if the system acknowledges it was rigged against him, he still doesn't have the scholarship. He still doesn't have Princeton. And the deadline for accepting admission offers is getting closer every single day. 3 weeks pass like a slow-motion car crash. 3 weeks of waiting, of watching lawyers argue on cable news, of Jamal going to school and pretending his life isn't being dissected by the entire nation. And then the FBI releases its findings. The numbers are staggering. Morrison Foundation board members accepted $750,000 in consulting fees from Whitmore Industries. Not over years. Over months. The payments started immediately after Robert Whitmore joined the board, carefully timed to look legitimate but too coordinated to be anything but bribes. The emails prove quid pro quo beyond any shadow of doubt. Money for scholarship decision. Influence for opportunity. Corruption dressed up in corporate language and moved through legitimate bank accounts, but corruption nonetheless. Federal fraud charges are filed against Robert Whitmore and 3 board members. Not civil charges. Criminal charges. The kind that come with prison time. Whitmore Industries faces a massive scandal. Their stock plummets another 20%. Major clients pull contracts. The board of directors holds an emergency meeting that lasts 14 hours. Robert Whitmore resigns as CEO. The man who threatened a United States senator, who weaponized a scholarship to punish a teenager, who thought his money made him untouchable, he's forced out of the company he built. Brandon Whitmore's scholarship is revoked. Princeton withdraws their admission offer. Everything his father bought him disappears overnight. The Morrison Foundation is dissolved. 30 years of history, thousands of students helped, all of it tainted now. The assets are frozen pending criminal proceedings. Future students who were counting on that scholarship are left scrambling for alternatives. Jamal watches the news with his mother in their living room. The same living room where, weeks ago, he threw his Princeton pennant in the closet and wondered if anything mattered. "We did it," Diane says, squeezing his hand. "We exposed them. They're going to face justice. But when she looks at her son's face, she doesn't see triumph. She sees something hollow. Why aren't you happy? She asks. Jamal's voice is quiet. Because I still don't have a scholarship, Mom. Brandon lost his, but I didn't win. The system is broken, everyone acknowledges it's broken, there are going to be criminal trials and maybe people go to prison. But I still don't have Princeton. The deadline to accept admission offers is in 2 weeks, and I still don't have a way to pay for it. The victory feels Pyrrhic. They burned down the corrupt system, but Jamal's future is still uncertain, still hanging by a thread. And then, on a Tuesday morning, a letter arrives at Senator Diane Carter's office. The return address makes her heart stop. Princeton University, Office of Admissions. She calls Jamal immediately. You need to come home. Now. The letter is brief, formal, and changes everything. Dean of Admissions Martin requests a meeting with Jamal Carter. To Princeton. As soon as possible. They drive to Princeton the next day. It's a 2-hour drive that feels like 20. Jamal's hands are sweating so badly he has to wipe them on his jeans every few minutes. His mother keeps trying to make conversation, to fill the silence with hope, but Jamal can't let himself hope. Not again. Hope has hurt too much already. Princeton's campus is everything he dreamed it would be. Gothic architecture, sprawling lawns, students walking with the casual confidence of people who belong. Jamal has never felt more like an outsider. Dean Martin's office is lined with books and degrees from institutions that sound like they were founded before America existed. The dean himself is a distinguished black man in his 60s, with kind eyes and the bearing of someone who's navigated these halls of power long enough to understand exactly how they work and how they fail. Mr. Carter, he says, standing to shake Jamal's hand. Thank you for coming. Please sit. Jamal sits. His mother sits beside him. They're both holding their breath. I've followed your story closely, Dean Martin begins. The scandal, the investigation, all of it. And I have to tell you I'm ashamed. Jamal's stomach drops. I'm ashamed that it took a national scandal to bring attention to you. I'm ashamed that a student of your caliber, with your record, with your character, was overlooked. I'm ashamed that systems we trust to identify merit failed you so completely. He pauses, looking directly at Jamal. Your application to Princeton was exceptional. Your grades, your test scores, your essay about your father and your commitment to breaking cycles of poverty, it was one of the best applications I've read in my 30 years doing this job. But more than that, watching you stand up at that press conference, watching you refuse to be broken by corruption and injustice, watching you fight for what's right even when it would have been easier to stay quiet, that showed me who you really are. Dean Martin opens a folder on his desk. Princeton University would be honored to offer you early admission with a full scholarship from the university's endowment. Full tuition, room, board, books, everything. 4 years, guaranteed, regardless of your mother's income or political career. Jamal can't speak. He literally cannot form words. Tears are streaming down his face and he doesn't even try to stop them. Diane is crying too, one hand over her mouth, the other gripping her son's shoulder. You've shown courage beyond your years, Mr. Carter, Dean Martin continues. That's the kind of student we want at Princeton. That's the kind of person who changes the world. But he's not done. Additionally, the university's Board of Trustees has approved the establishment of the Jamal Carter Merit Scholarship. It will be awarded annually to students from underrepresented backgrounds who face systemic obstacles similar to what you experienced. Students who did everything right but got rejected because the system was rigged against them. Jamal finally finds his voice, though it's barely a whisper. You're naming a scholarship after me? Your story matters, Jamal. Your fight matters. We want to make sure future students don't have to fight the same battles you did. At least, not alone. Diane hugs her son, and for the first time in weeks, it's not a hug of comfort or consolation. It's a hug of pure, overwhelming joy. They won. They actually won. Jamal returns to Westbridge Academy different than he left. Not because of the scholarship, though that's part of it, but because he's been through fire and come out the other side still standing. Some students still avoid him. The ones whose parents are wealthy, the ones who benefit from the system staying exactly as it is, they treat him like a traitor to some unspoken code. But others apologize. I should have supported you. I was scared to get involved. I'm sorry. Miss Patricia Allen hugs him in the hallway, right in front of everyone. I'm so proud of you, she says, and there are tears in her eyes. 30 years I've been teaching, and you're the bravest student I've ever known. And then Jamal sees Brandon Whitmore in the hallway, alone. Brandon used to walk these halls surrounded by friends, by admirers, by an entourage of people drawn to his money and his father's influence. Now he's alone, carrying his books himself, looking smaller somehow. For the first time since all of this started, they make direct eye contact. Brandon approaches slowly, hesitantly. "Can we talk?" They sit on a bench outside, near the athletic fields where Brandon used to practice lacrosse before his father's scandal cost him his spot on the team. The silence stretches between them, awkward and heavy. "I didn't know," Brandon finally says. "About the bribes, the corruption, the way my father manipulated everything. I swear I didn't know." Jamal studies him. "But you took the scholarship knowing you didn't earn it." Brandon flinches like he's been slapped. "My father told me I deserved it. That my activities and my character mattered more than just grades. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him." He looks down at his hands. "I'm sorry. For what it's worth, you should have one. You were better than me in every way that matters." Jamal looks at this boy who used to be his enemy, who used to smirk in the hallways, who benefited from a corrupt system without even questioning it. Now Brandon just looks lost. His whole world collapsed and he's trying to figure out how to build a new one from the rubble. "What are you going to do now?" Jamal asks. Brandon shrugs. "State school maybe. Get a job. Or figure out who I am without my father's money, without his name opening doors for me." There's something almost admirable in that answer. Something honest. "Good luck," Jamal says, and he means it. It's not friendship. It won't ever be friendship. But it's understanding. Two boys on opposite sides of a war they didn't start, both trying to figure out who they are now that the battle is over. Brandon walks away and Jamal watches him go, feeling something that might be pity or might be relief that their lives will never intersect again. Then Danny Kim appears, standing a few feet away, looking hesitant and ashamed. "I'm sorry I abandoned you," Danny says, the words rushing out like he's been holding them in for weeks. "I was scared. My parents were scared. We didn't want to get involved in political drama, and I let that fear make me a coward. That was wrong." Jamal looks at his former best friend. "Yeah, I was wrong." The honesty hangs between them. "But I get it," Jamal continues. "This was scary for me too. It's still scary. Standing up cost me friends, cost me sleep, made me a target. I don't blame you for being afraid." Danny extends his hand. "Can we start over?" Jamal shakes it. Slowly. "Trust has to be rebuilt, not just wished back into existence." "I can do slow," Danny says, and his smile is tentative but real. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Senator Diane Carter stands on the floor of the United States Senate, and she's about to make history. "Mr. President, distinguished colleagues," she begins, her voice carrying through the chamber with the authority of someone who has earned the right to be heard. "What happened to my son is not unique. It happens to thousands of students every year. Qualified, brilliant young people who do everything right, who work harder than anyone should have to work, only to be rejected because of corruption, because of wealth, because the system is designed to perpetuate privilege rather than reward merit." She pauses, letting that truth sink into the chamber. Merit should matter. Hard work should matter. Not wealth. Not connections. Not who your parents know or how much they can donate. She introduces the Educational Equity Act. Legislation designed to bring transparency and accountability to private scholarship foundations. It requires disclosure of all selection criteria, prohibits donors from influencing recipient selection, and creates federal oversight for educational foundations that operate across state lines. It's radical. It's necessary. And surprisingly, even Diane's political opponents support it. Because corruption is corruption regardless of party. And even the most partisan senators have children, have constituents, have some memory of what it was like to believe the system could be fair. The bill passes 87-13. A landslide by Senate standards. Watching from the gallery above, sitting next to his mother's chief of staff, Jamal has tears streaming down his face. His pain became purpose. His struggle became change. Thousands of students who will never know his name will benefit from the law that bears his story. If you want to see Jamal's final victory and how this story ends, subscribe right now because the conclusion is going to leave you inspired. Question for you. If you could pass one law to make education more fair and accessible, what would it be? Drop your ideas in the comments. 6 months later, Jamal Carter stands at a podium on a football field, wearing a cap and gown, looking out at hundreds of faces. Valedictorian. The highest honor Westbridge Academy can bestow. After everything that happened, after the scandal and the isolation and the public exposure, his classmates voted for him. Not out of pity. Out of respect. "This year," he begins, his voice steady and clear, "I learned that the world isn't fair. That sometimes people with power abuse it. That systems we're taught to trust are often designed to benefit those who need help the least. Parents shift in their seats. Some administrators look uncomfortable. But Jamal doesn't care about making people comfortable anymore. I learned that even when you do everything right, perfect grades, perfect test scores, perfect activities, you can still lose. You can still be rejected, dismissed, overlooked because of forces beyond your control. He pauses, looking directly at his mother in the audience. But I also learned that justice is possible when we refuse to stay silent. When we stand up even when standing up is terrifying. When we demand better, even when the system tells us to accept what we're given. His voice grows stronger. My mother taught me that education is power. This year she taught me that courage is power too. Courage to speak truth. Courage to fight corruption. Courage to demand that the world live up to the promises it makes to young people like us. He looks out at his fellow graduates. To everyone graduating today, I want you to hear this. Your worth isn't determined by who accepts you or rejects you. Your worth isn't measured by which college sends you a thick envelope or which scholarship foundation chooses your application. Your worth comes from who you are, how hard you work, and whether you stand up when it matters. The audience rises in a standing ovation. It starts with the students, then spreads to the parents, then even some of the faculty who were complicit in their silence when Jamal was rejected. Diane Carter is in the audience, tears streaming down her face, overwhelmed with pride for the man her son has become. After the ceremony, Jamal stands on the field in his Princeton t-shirt, no longer hidden in a closet but worn proudly, as students line up to take photos with him, to ask advice, to share their own stories of injustice. A young black freshman approaches, barely 14 years old, shy but determined. "You're my hero," the kid says. "Because of you, I'm going to apply for scholarships I thought I'd never get. Because of you, I know it's possible." And Jamal realizes something profound. His story, his pain, his fight, his refusal to give up, gave other people hope. Not just inspiration but actual, tangible hope that the system can change, that corruption can be exposed, that standing up matters. The next day, Jamal and Diane visit his father's grave. They haven't been here together since the scholarship rejection, haven't had the heart to face the man who believed so deeply in hard work and merit. Jamal places his Princeton acceptance letter on the headstone, right next to the flowers his mother brought. "I wish you were here, Dad," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "I wish you could see this. But I feel like you were with me through all of it. Every time I wanted to give up, I thought about what you would do. What you would want me to do." Diane wraps her arm around her son's shoulders. "He would be so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. You fought back when it would have been easier to give up. You stood up when it would have been safer to stay quiet. You became the kind of man your father always hoped you'd be." Jamal leans into his mother. "I learned from the best." They stand there for a long time, two people who've been through hell together and came out stronger on the other side. Back home, Jamal packs for Princeton. His room is full of boxes, his walls bare except for one photograph. It's from the day of the press conference, taken by a photographer who captured a moment between the chaos. Jamal and his mother standing side by side, both looking exhausted but triumphant. Both looking like fighters who refuse to back down. He picks up his journal, the one he's kept since middle school, and writes his final entry. "They tried to take my future. They couldn't. Because I refused to let their corruption define me. I'm not just Jamal Carter, the senator's son. I'm not just the kid who exposed a scandal. I'm someone who fought for what's right. And that's worth more than any scholarship, any admission letter, any recognition. That's worth everything." He closes the journal and packs it carefully in a box labeled Princeton First Year. The final morning before he leaves, Jamal walks onto Princeton's campus for the first time as a student. Backpack over his shoulder, uncertainty and excitement warring in his chest. He looks up at Nassau Hall, the iconic building that's appeared in every Princeton photograph he's collected over the years, and he smiles. He made it. Despite everything, everyone, every obstacle, he made it. And in his mother's voice, the one that's guided him through every trial, he hears the lesson that will carry him through whatever comes next. When they try to close doors, build new ones. When they try to silence you, speak louder. When they try to break you, stand stronger. That's what my son taught me. The screen fades to black and text appears. The Educational Equity Act passed in 2024, protecting thousands of students from scholarship corruption. Jamal Carter graduated from Princeton with honors and became a civil rights attorney. He continues to fight for students facing the injustices he once faced. A final message. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Keep fighting. Because Jamal Carter's story isn't just his story. It's the story of every student who's been told they're not good enough when the real problem is a system that was never designed to let them win. It's the story of every parent who's watched their child work themselves to exhaustion only to be passed over for someone with the right last name or the right bank account. It's the story of everyone who's ever wondered if standing up is worth the cost. And the answer, as Jamal Carter proved, is always yes. Standing up is always worth it. Fighting is always worth it. Because the alternative, accepting corruption, accepting injustice, accepting that merit doesn't matter, that's not survival. That's surrender. And Jamal Carter didn't come this far to surrender. None of us should.